Hola, soy Javier de la Cruz Garcia. Esta semana Bagari.com me ha hecho una entrevista y ha publicado un podcast hablando sobre mi trabajo. La edición en papel de la revista saldrá en un par de meses, pero en el blog ya se puede encontrar tanto la entrevista como el podcast, que aunque está en inglés no es difícil seguir. Aún así pondré el enlace en los comentarios. Espero que sea de vuestro interés.
Okay, so imagine this for a sec. You're a young artist, right, trying to make it in the art world,
Yeah,
and then boom, just totally out of the blue, you have this encounter that changes everything.
that's Javier's story in a nutshell, right?
See?
I mean,
Right.
selling his work on the street, and suddenly he's discovered by an art dealer.
I know, it's crazy, like something you'd see in a movie.
Totally.
And then teaching finds him in this totally serendipitous way too.
That's why
Makes you think about all those sliding door moments, you know?
it really does.
Those times when life takes an unexpected turn.
Like, you just never know what's going to come your way, especially in a field like art.
Totally.
It's like rarely a straight line.
Not at all. But with Javier, it's not just about sort of falling into art and teaching. It's more than that. It's the pure passion. Like he actually finds teaching more rewarding than working in his own studio.
I think that says a lot about him,
Yeah.
you know, because I think it speaks to this idea that, like, teaching, it's not just a one-way street, right?
Hmm.
He actually says that teaching pushes him creatively, keeps his own process fresh.
Right. Because there's that whole learning through teaching thing.
Exactly. You have to explain something to someone else, and suddenly you understand it on a whole other level. It's not just about the techniques anymore.
Right.
It's the why, the how, the feeling. It's a whole different ballgame.
You know that saying, the best way to learn is to teach?
Oh, yeah.
He's living proof. But he also uses this great metaphor, the one with the animals taking the test.
Oh, I love that one.
Classic Javier, right?
Using humor to make a point.
So good.
Yeah.
But it's so true, though, the idea of forcing everyone into the same mold, especially in art. It's just absurd.
It makes you wonder, like, are we valuing the wrong things?
Yeah.
Because we all have our own strengths, our own ways of expressing ourselves.
Like those animals, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what's even more interesting is he doesn't stop there.
What do you mean?
He challenges those positive labels in art, saying they can be just as limiting. Like, we all have artists we admire, styles we love, but when does it become a box,
That's a good question.
you know?
So then what's the alternative? If we shouldn't, try to emulate our heroes, what are we supposed to do?
I think Javier would say, sure, have your influences, but don't let them define you.
Yeah.
Experiment, evolve. Remember what he said about Malaga's recent cultural boom?
Oh, yeah, with the Lucian Freud and Toulouse-Lautrec exhibits, right?
Exactly. Imagine the impact, not just on Javier, but his students too.
Being surrounded by all that incredible art.
All those masters pushing boundaries. It's inspiring, right?
Totally. It makes you realize there's no one right way to be an artist and how important it is to experience different styles, even if they're not your thing.
Yeah, expand your horizons, you know. You never know what might spark something new in your own work. And speaking of pushing boundaries, we have to talk about Javier's perspective on mistakes.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Not every day you meet an artist who embraces mistakes.
I know. He celebrates them almost.
I mean, most of us dread making mistakes.
Totally.
But for him, they're essential.
Like he sees them as part of the process.
Exactly. And it reminds me of something a musician friend once told me. He said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not taking enough risks.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? It's about reframing failure, not as an end point, but as a stepping stone to something greater.
That's actually really powerful, especially for aspiring artists. It's so easy to get bogged down by self-doubt,
Oh, no,
to be scared of making the wrong move.
of course.
But what if, instead of being afraid of messing up, we actually saw it as a chance to learn?
It's a total game changer when you think about it like that.
And that seems to be a big part of his advice for aspiring artists too, right?
Totally.
He really boils it down to know yourself, be patient, and don't be afraid to jump at those unexpected opportunities.
It's like his life story, if you think about it.
Right.
All those principles have guided him all along.
I guess self-knowledge and patience, those can be kind of vague though. How do you actually put those into practice?
Well, you need some real-world examples.
Yeah, it's your specialty.
Well, I was thinking about what Javier said about James Whale, the director,
Yeah.
the guy who directed Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know he didn't start out as a director?
No way.
He was a cartoonist and a set designer.
Wow.
Wild, right? And it wasn't until the war that he found his love for theater. Even then, it was a winding path to Hollywood.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, and I think it shows how all those different experiences, even if they seem random at the time, can end up shaping our path.
That's so true.
Like the path to success is never really linear, is it?
Nope.
Sometimes it's the detours that make it interesting.
And sometimes it's not even about finding the one right path. It's about the journey.
Couldn't agree more. And that kind of leads us to another interesting thing about Javier.
What's that?
His work is hard to categorize. Even he has trouble pinning down his own style.
Which makes you wonder.
Yeah,
right?
Wonder what?
Like, do the most interesting artists, the ones who really grab you, do they resist those easy labels?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's like they're creating their own category or something.
Totally. They're not afraid to be unique. And, that reminds me of Javier's teaching style. It's like he has this amazing ability to balance structure and freedom in the classroom.
Yeah, how does he do that? Can it be easy?
It's a real balancing act, right? You got to give students the fundamentals, the tools of the trade, so to speak.
Right.
But then there's this other side.
What do you mean?
Like, you don't want to stifle their creativity.
Yeah.
You want them to find their own voice.
It's like you can give them the paintbrush, but you can't force them to paint a masterpiece.
Exactly. And that's where Javier's real skill comes in. He ignites that spark, gives them the tools, and then steps back, lets them experiment,
I wonder, though, do you think he changes his approach depending on who he's teaching?
Oh, for sure.
Because, like, adolescents and adults are night and day.
Tell me about it.
Like, with teenagers, you have to make it fun, keep them engaged. It's a totally different energy.
He even talks about that, finding those connection points.
Yeah.
Because that's key, right?
And absolutely.
Finding what sparks their interest. And, it's funny because even though he talks about the challenges of teaching younger students, you can tell he really enjoys it.
Whereas with adults, I imagine there's already that shared love for art. They're there because they want to be.
Exactly.
It's a different kind of dynamic.
Totally. They get it,
Yeah.
No need to convince them of the value of art. They're already on board.
It's like a community of like-minded people, all passionate about the same thing.
And that's what's so amazing about art, isn't it?
What's that?
It brings people together.
And for Javier, it's more than just a job.
It's life.
It's everything.
He even talks about finding inspiration in everyday moments.
I love that. Not just in galleries or museums, but everywhere.
It's like he's saying, pay attention. Open your eyes.
Right.
There's beauty everywhere.
It's a good reminder for all of us,
For sure.
to slow down, appreciate the little things.
And, it actually connects back to something we were discussing earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The role of chance.
Yeah.
Remember how Javier talks about those unexpected opportunities?
Yeah.
Well, I think those moments often come when we're present.
Oh, interesting.
Like when we're open to whatever life throws at us.
That's a really cool connection. So, like, the more present we are, the more open we are to these sort of happy accidents.
Exactly. And isn't that what art is all about?
What do you mean?
Embracing the unexpected, seeing the beauty in unconventional places, expressing our own unique view of the world.
I love that.
And that brings us to something really crucial that Javier emphasizes, especially for those just starting their artistic journey.
And what's that?
Embracing those mistakes.
Ah, there it is. He's all about the mistakes.
He really is. Because he knows that real creativity comes from pushing boundaries, from taking risks.
And sometimes that means messing up along the way.
Exactly. But here's the thing. A mistake is often just an opportunity in disguise.
It's all about perspective, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like instead of dwelling on what we should have done, we can choose to see those moments as chances to learn and grow.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
Oh, for sure. But think about it. How often does that fear of messing up hold us back? And not just in art.
Oh, all the time. In life, too. Like trying something new, putting yourself out there. It's scary.
Absolutely. But imagine what we could achieve if we weren't afraid to fail. What could you do if you had that Javier mindset?
It's a powerful question, for sure.
And it leads us to what I think is at the core of Javier's message.
What's that?
Art isn't just a profession. It's a way of life.
So it's about bringing that same curiosity, that same openness to everything we do.
Exactly. It's about seeing the world through an artist's eyes.
And that makes life a lot more exciting, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's about finding those moments of beauty and wonder in the everyday. And, that actually reminds me of something else Javier said about living consciously in the present moment.
Oh, right.
That's not just an art thing, is it?
No, it's a life thing.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle, to get lost in our to-do lists.
Yeah.
But when we're present, really present,
Yeah.
that's when the magic happens. That's when we're open to new ideas, to inspiration.
That makes sense.
And it's in those moments of presence that creativity flourishes.
It's like he's saying that art isn't something you just do by yourself in a room. It's more like a conversation.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah.
Between the artist and the world.
Right. And then between that art and everyone who sees it or hears it.
It's an exchange, isn't it?
Totally. Of energy, emotions, ideas. And like you said, it can change us.
Absolutely. It can challenge how we see things, open us up to new possibilities.
You know, I have to say, I'm feeling super inspired after talking about Javier.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners feel that way too. It's like he's given us this guidebook, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Not just for making art, but for living a more creative life. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Any final thoughts?
Well, I keep thinking about Javier finding inspiration everywhere he looks. And the everyday stuff.
Right.
Like, what if we all did that? What if we looked at the world that way?
Tried to see that beauty in the ordinary.
Exactly. And I think even just thinking about it that way can make a big difference.
It's about shifting your perspective, like we were talking about before.
It really is. And those little shifts, they can lead to big changes.
I love that.
So yeah, as you go about your day, your week, remember what Javier said. Embrace the unexpected. Don't be afraid to make a mistake.
And know that you have what it takes to be creative. It's already there inside you.
Well said.
This has been fantastic. I always learn so much from these deep dives with you.
Likewise. Until next time.
To everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us today as we explored the creative process. We hope Javier's story has inspired you to tap into your own creative potential. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying.
Podéis encontrarnos en Instagram en Javier de la Cruz García 1973 y en otra cuenta llamada Academia de Arte Málaga. En Facebook en Javier de la Cruz y también Academia de Arte Málaga. Dadle a me gusta si os ha gustado y compartidlo, suscribiros para no perderos próximas actualizaciones y activad la campanita para que os lleguen dichas notificaciones. Un saludo y hasta pronto.